And we're ready to go. Okay. Got you drinking.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay.
All right, everyone. Morning or good afternoon, I guess, and thank you for joining us. Boyd and I put this presentation together today. That's the 10 secrets and tips for SEO. As Boyd was mentioning earlier, my business is SEO, so I'm a participant in, of course, the program. And Boyd, I love working with him. He owns a company called BP Media, and he does social media management. Social media is really one of the major aspects of search engine optimization today. The algorithm continues to change and lends some more credibility to that. So it makes perfect sense that not only do Boyd and I do other types of conferences together, that we would come together and put this one together specific for SEO and teach you guys some tips and tricks. I threw this slide in. Normally I like to talk a little tiny bit about myself and some of the crazy things that I do, and maybe some of you guys know me and things that I've done. But this kind of evolved from some stuff that Boyd and I have been doing because we're all, we've been locked down with the COVID virus. And so we've all been working from home, and there's been a real insurgence of people wanting to know how to do SEO themselves, wanting how to do social media themselves. So, if your office looks like one of these places, then you might actually understand what it is that we're going to be talking about today. But it looks like we're going to be, I'll make it through this. And 9 weeks ago, 8-9 weeks ago, we were, the first couple of guys that were saying, hey, we will survive. And people that pay attention to business during this next, pandemic time will thrive and be better on the far side. And now at least we can see what the far side is going to look like. So we're both very encouraged, and we hope all of you guys have been paying attention and doing all the right things as we moved along. So today the class, it's loosely kind of put together with me teaching 4 or 5 of the topics and Boyd teaching 4 or 5 of the topics. Certainly if I kind of flow over something and you want to ask a question, put it in the chat box, the question and answer box, and Boyd will interrupt me. He knows pretty much what the presentation is. I'll do the same thing for him. But this is kind of the outline that we're going to go through today. So I'm going to talk about quality content and backlinking. We're going to hand it over to Boyd. Boyd's going to talk about social signals, load speed, and being mobile friendly, the importance of being mobile friendly. I'll do a couple more categories of domain authority and keywords, then and web structure. Then Boyd will wrap up with security and the ultimate, which is the user experience. That's what Google really wants to see is how well we're treating the users. So, we might spend 5-6 minutes a topic and then move on. So it's going to be fairly quick today. We're going to cover information quickly. If you've got something, again, throw the question up quickly, but I'm going to move reasonably quick. So we're going to talk about quality content. And there's a couple of, I tend to be pretty graphic in my stuff. I've only got one slide today that's just absolutely covered with words, but today we want to talk about, what makes quality content. And graphic that is displayed there actually shows you guys that sites that rank in the #1 position for Google generally have about 1,950 words on the home page, on the very first page. That seems like a lot of content, and it is. But at the end of the day, Google, everything that we're going to talk about is to satisfy Google. And there's kind of a toss-up there between satisfying Google and satisfying the end user. I'm going to tell you guys at the onset that Google always looks at things through the end user's eyes. I can do lots of things, as far as driving lots of cool links and having great page domain authority and some other things that, buzzwords that you hear with search engine optimization. But at the end of the day, what you really want to do is satisfy Google. And Google wants to satisfy the end user. So they kind of run hand in hand. They mesh together. Google thinks about the end user. So what we need as far as quality content is you absolutely have to have original content, unique content. and it needs to be valuable to the topic or the keyword that you're talking about. If you cut and paste or anything like that, and it's duplicated someplace else on the site, if you're duplicating it from another user, from another website, Google will see that and punish you accordingly. We're going to talk about some tools that we have. You know, Boyd and I have developed a website called SEO in 360, and there's some tools in there that we're going to talk about that will stop you from publishing duplicate content. It should be valuable and it should be real and fresh. So the next topic, or the next little keyword there, is that we want to talk about up-to-date and fresh content. If you have something, I wrote a blog about social distancing the day that I heard the term, which would have been 10 or 12 weeks ago. I wrote a blog about that very topic, social distancing. It was an unusual word to me. It was very, very fresh, and it became very, very relevant. That blog that I wrote actually ranked first page for a little while. So you can actually do things, rank things, if you are on top of it, and you're on top of the news, and you're on top of things that are fresh and relevant. Content length, I mentioned very quickly. And so what we want to do is pay attention to that and make sure that it's the appropriate length. If you have too few words, I just want to let you know that then Google doesn't understand what your topic is or what you're talking about. So you have to have enough content so that Google can understand the point of the conversation. And then there has to be the appropriate structure and organization of that content. There's another little category that I talk about a little bit later on, structured content, and it will enlighten you guys a little tiny bit more on the depth of what it takes to really have good content. So here's the first kind of introduction into a couple of things that I want you to know. First of all, a very small number of stories generate more than 60% of the traffic on the internet. 10% of the stories, and those would be valuable stories that are followed and shared and all kinds of other things, whether they be social media or you're sharing a link with one of your friends so that they can see a blog. 10% of the stories generate 60% of the traffic. So that's something to pay attention to. You want to have quality content. The next couple of categories that I'm going to show you here, these are actually from the website SEO in 360. And there's two particular products there that I want you to go take a look at. One of them is called the Article Spinner and Rewriter. That is an application that you can use right from your desktop. You paste an article and then put it into this particular app, and it rewrites it for you. I would recommend, of course, that you go through after the fact and read it before you actually post it. But of course, you want to rewrite that so that it doesn't look like duplicate content. So if you like something that somebody's saying and you want to just have the article rewritten and then drop in on top of that your own personal annotations, then that would be a good way to do it. The next one is how to get traffic from Google. These are actually, one of them is an app and one of them is a book. The website SEO in 360 has both apps, both books and services. So all of those things we're going to talk a little tiny bit about today. That's what I wanted to mention to you first, was that you can get all of these things that we're going to talk about, that we're going to cover today, you can get on our website. So the next thing that I wanted to talk about today was backlinks. And I had the luxury of actually kind of picking and choosing which categories assigned to Boyd and which ones I was willing to take. And backlinks are horrifically important to me. And you guys that have heard me speak before, heard me speak at any of the networking groups, heard me speak at any of the conventions that I go to, always harp on backlinks. And the reason for that is because they are important, and they were the mainstay of what Google was founded upon. And I'll give you a little bit of history. I sometimes, if you've heard this, then give me a little latitude here and forgive me. But Google was based on a link building as the primary core of their Google algorithm. 20 years ago, when Larry and Sergey were putting the application of Google together, the search engine together, the competitors were AOL and Alta Vista, and all of their search engines worked with the premise that if you're popular, we're going to make you more popular. We're going to keep you at the top of that pile. And they looked at that and thought, what a very, poor way to actually rank a website. So they decided early on that they were going to use backlinks as a main part of their algorithm. And that's where if somebody was willing to drive traffic away from their site with a backlink to your site, that's a vote of popularity. And it proved to be a much better mechanism than just general popularity. So that's what Google was built on and it was founded upon. So backlinking has always been a core of the business model that Google has put together. And so I want you to think about where to find backlink opportunities. And the opportunities can be formed in a lot of different ways. You can find opportunities with referral partners or referral resources. You can create partnerships to link to and from. I want you to be cautious about giving away your link juju. You always want to bring in more links than you're giving away. If you're giving away more links, then you become less relevant. So you always want people linking into you. So think about that a little tiny bit. You can use the Google Search Console to find other partners to link with. You can actually spy on your competition. That's kind of a fun one. Find out where they're linking to. And if they have people that are willing to link to them and they're a competitor, they're probably willing to link to you because the topics are very similar. You can find broken links. This is kind of a interesting model, and I've been dabbling with it and deploying it a little tiny bit in my clients for my clients that we drive links to. And it's where you can find an expired domain. And just because the domain name has expired doesn't mean that links into that domain are expired. So you can actually find an expired domain, buy that domain, then all of the links that are driven to that, you can now redirect into your domain or to your topic. So it's kind of an interesting model, and it seems to have a great deal of wherewithal because some of the inbound links have a great deal of domain strength. And so it's really a powerful way to do it. You can create high quality content. This is one of the best things that you can do, is to have super quality content, and then people will naturally just want to link to that. The second thing, or the seventh thing, excuse me, is you can create what's called skyscraper content. And it's an article that might be 10,000 words long. I tend to think about articles in terms of words, but I sometimes spar a little bit and I say, well, how many words do you need me to write? And he once says, Jim, just write an article about this. And I say, yeah, but how many words? And so I tend to think about words, but 10,000 words is an awful lot of words. But you can cover any topic. I mean, cover it completely from top to bottom. You write that much content. So it's called skyscraper content. And so if you have skyscraper content, then you can cover your topic pretty much in general. You can use backlinks, and they're called image links. And so if you have a image or a compelling image, those of you that know me know I like to kind of put compelling information out there via images. I'm very image centric. And so we create links from images, which are great things to do. You can get testimonials from your clients, have them go from one website into your website or to another, a link embedded in that. You can use a process that's called HARO, or helping a reporter out. That's basically just giving them content or helping them with content on an article. You can have blogging where you can have an inbound link from another website to your website. So you can acquire links by being a guest speaker or putting guest information up there. This is the next one, number 12, is pretty important. It's a press release or an interview. We've got clients that one client that we've just ranked. We drove him from position, he was over 100 positions deep to the first page, and we did that with a combination of interviews and some press releases. You can do guest appearance on podcasts, and of course you can list your own site as a resource page. We've got another client that we just really helped his ranking. We did it by having all of the national parks as a resource. He's a trailer manufacturer. So what we did with him, We listed all of the national parks and have links outbound to those resources. But then on that same site, because we created a site, we drove it more links actually into his actual site. So that's my time. So I'm close here. So this are all things that are on our site, SEO in 360, that have to do with backlinking. And I'm going to encourage you guys multiple times today to go find them. There's a couple of applications called Backlink Checker and Broken Link Finder. There's Website Link Checker. And there's also a couple of books, Contextual Link Building, Link Analyzer, and then Backlink Maker. All of those things are resources that are affordable. You can do yourself on our website or buy them. They'll teach you how to do it. A couple things that I wanted to point out here was that Google has 37 billion. This is a tool that I use, and they have 37 billion searches. This is the backlink service that we actually provide. So not only do you have a couple of books, a couple of apps, then of course the service that we provide. And the last thing that I want to mention before I turn the time over to Boyd for his next couple of topics is that a guy named Aaron Wall made a statement it was a few years ago that I first saw it. He said the success of any page should be measured by one criteria and one criteria only. That is, the visitor do what you wanted them to do at the end of that interaction. So if you're trying to sell them something, the visitor take an action and buy something. If the visitor, if you want them to go to another place or another page or follow a Facebook page, did they take that action? So that's what you should measure success by, is did the viewer do what you wanted them to do? So that's going to end me for a couple of minutes. I'm going to stop my sharing and let Boyd take over.
Well, I'm up.
Okay.
Okay, everybody can see it. Good. All right. So what I'm going to talk about now is social signals. And so even when I looked at that, I said, social signals? What's that? It's all those things that can bring social interaction into your web page. And so we're going to talk about that. But the first thing I want you to understand is there's some must-haves. And this is one of them. You must have, in order for SEO to work for you in most cases, is you have to have a Google My Business account. If you don't have a Google My Business account right now, go get you one. Go claim it. And most likely, they have already scraped some information off of your website and put it together, but it may not be correct. And you need to be going there and make sure it's done. Because there are 4 things that I've listed here that are very important with this Google My Business account. You have to have your company information. Now, there's some other, lots of other search engines out there and places where you can put your information. You need to make sure that they're all the same. But the most important one is the Google My Business account. And so you got to get your information on there and fill it out as much as you can. Now, a few other things that you're going to have on there is you're going to have your reviews. This is where Google reviews are all kept. And it's where you will go and you can then sign in and you can respond to those reviews. And that is very important as well. In fact, I'll mention that a few times on things. Whenever you get a review, always respond to it. Good or bad review. And always take the high road. Always try to not stoop to somebody's level if they're being that. But the key here is respond. And I have a whole class about doing reviews and such. And so if you're interested in more information, let me know. The next thing is illustrative cover. Just like Facebook has a cover page, so does Google My Business. In fact, if you look at the, got to hit the right button here. Well, maybe I'll hit the right button. None of my buttons want to work. Huh. Oh, there we go.
Going the wrong way, Boyd.
I know I'm going the wrong way, and I can't get it to bring up the next. Oh, there it goes. Okay.
There it is. Okay.
So here's an example of that. You see the cover there? it's just a dummy cover. And that is important to have on there. So if somebody's looking you up to find out where you're at, what you're doing, you need to have that there. You've got to be able to do that. Some other things that are in there that you need to be pay attention to is, notice here, they have the website, they have the phone number, and apple.com. Okay, so that's where they actually have their scheduling. You need to have as much information in there as possible. You'll notice down below here, they don't have any hours. They don't have the photo. They don't have anything there. Now, as they go along, it'll start filling it out. But you've got to have those things in there so that Google, when you're doing a search, is going to be able to find that information and be able to give it to people. If they can't, you're not going to get the information. Now, here's the most important part, of course, is the where your reviews are. With the reviews, you'll see here that they have reviews on here, but this is what it should look like, where you have a review here and then a response underneath. And they only had, let me go back here, they only had just the reviews and had not responded to them. So it's important to do. And then, of course, you got to be sure, social media posts are going to be brought into Google and used, and I'm going to tell you about that right now when I talk about Facebook. That's the second must-have. You really must have a Facebook account. The reason why is Google only really pays attention to reviews that are put on two sites, Google My Business and Facebook. If there are any other places, it's not going to be worth anything to Google. I mean, it's great when you have it on, if you're a restaurant and you're on the Golden Spoon or on TripAdvisor, that's great for those directories, but Google pays no attention to those, only Facebook and Google My Business. And so you want to have those. And so reviews are important. In fact, between these two, you want to try to have about as many on each of them as the other. You don't want it to have 10 on one and 1 on the other, or 100 on one and only 15 on another. You want to try to keep them fairly close. Again, responding to reviews. You got to do that every time. And the rule of thumb is, if you get a review, if it just simply says, great job, then all you have to do is say thank you. But if you want to really do it better, you're going to try to remember what that customer did, what you did for them, what their experience was, and then write about it as well. Now, if they write something more than 3 lines long, you should be writing at least 60 to 70% as long as they did. So if they tell a story about what they got out of your business, be sure to write back and let them know that you remember who they are. And it's a very important thing to do. Another thing is, you want to be sure on Facebook or any of the other social medias that you want to be engaging on your, putting engaging posts up. Don't just put up something that tells about you and it doesn't ask a question. It doesn't do anything. Now, you don't do that every time, but you want to put things up so that you can. I run a program called Recipe for Social Media Success. If at some point you would like to know more about that or get involved with it, I'd love to have you on there, because that really has done some great things for several people. And it's about the different types of posts you can make, and it all brings people together. It's engaging and it's educational. It's giving offers, but also giving back to them. And then once you get somebody who's following you, engage with them. If they're commenting on something, be sure to comment back and make sure that you're doing some follows and friending of those that you would like to connect with as well. Everything on Facebook is all about likes, shares, and comments. So if you want to do better with that, you've got to do that.
Hey, Boyd, we've got a question real quick about reviews. It says, I've got some reviews from a year or 2 ago. Is it too late to respond to them?
Well, you can always respond to them. It does help. In fact, if they're the only reviews you have, I would respond to them. Usually once they get above a year old, they're not classified by Google as really pertinent. But if somebody's looking on your account and sees them and you're not responding to them, they simply will say, I don't know if I want to do business with this person. He didn't even thank that person for such a glowing review. Please do it. Go ahead and do it. But then you want to be getting more reviews. In fact, I read a report one time that said if you're a business that gets a lot of traffic into your business, whether it be on the phone or walk-in traffic, if you get a lot of it, you should have 5 reviews a month to get the highest score. If you're a medium type company, you get some people in, but it's not, maybe not every day, or it's occasional, then it should be 5 a quarter. If you're somebody like an architect, somebody who just only sees maybe 20 or 30 customers a year, you should be getting 5 reviews a year to get the most out of having reviews. Okay. I'm going to move on from there to go to, we're going to talk about YouTube. YouTube is owned by Google. It's important to understand that. Now, you can use other services for putting your videos on and then showing them on your website. But if you want the absolute best response SEO-wise, you want to have your videos on YouTube and they link to them from your website. Because then it says, 2 different things going to the same item. So you want to have that. The other thing is you want to embed them in your website so they're not leaving it to go over to a website, YouTube's website. Keep them there. Keep them in your website. And there are ways that you can shut off where they give additional videos at the end saying, would you like to look at this? And it's always pointing to somebody else. There's ways around that, and I can teach you that. One of the key things, though, to make a big difference with videos is you got to have tags and keywords, and you got to know what they are. You want to try to put those into the description as much as possible, but not overdoing it. And I'm sure Jim is going to talk a little bit about that. Now, one of the other things is once you get up above about 25 or 30 videos that are being able to be seen by the public, you want to index them. And there's certain ways of doing that, but you index them so that Google will find them much faster than having to search your whole library every time that somebody references over there. Then the last thing is use YouTube Live. You can use Facebook Live, you can use IGTV as well, but YouTube Live carries more weight when it comes to SEO than any of the others. So be aware of that. All right, and then last things, post consistently, daily if you can. Post internet reviews. Be sure to get your social media links to your website. So you want to push your website or your social media traffic to a website. Jim and I always use this one graphic that we go back and forth with, but I didn't put it in this time, Jim, so there you go.
I didn't either.
Yeah, and so, but it is important for you to have a place where a plan where you've got all of your traffic going to one place, and it should be a website generally, especially if you're trying to get SEO going for a website. It helps. But then you also need to do it the other way. You need to give out the same links out to your social media. The reason why is on your social media, I just talked about doing a daily post consistently. Well, that's how you keep in contact with people on a daily basis, just little nuggets. But on your website, maybe you post a blog, or you change something, or you got a new article in some way or another. You do that once every week, every 2 weeks, and once a month, whatever it is. Social media keeps it fresh and keeps pointing people in. But having it so that they go out to social media makes a big difference for SEO. And it's because they want you to be talking to them over and over. Then you engage on posts and respond with those posts. And the last things here, I'm just going to go through them real quick. Use many types of posts on your social media. Don't always be educating, whatever it might be. Use a graphic or a video every time. I see some people that still put on just text messages. Well, those are okay. And they have, and you'll notice that Facebook now has it so you can put a background behind them, because they found that if you put anything graphic on it, it will get 3 times the engagement. Isn't that what you want? Now get an engaging photo, which is like what I love Jim's photos that he puts on things, because they are so, they go right along with it and they draw you in. And that's an important thing to do. Now, I've mentioned this over and over and over. You got to respond to all reviews. It's so important on anything. And I just can't express how much that really makes a difference. And then respond to comments. When somebody puts a comment on one of your posts, go in and respond to them. I've had some great conversations by just simply asking them, why did you say that? When I asked them a question about, this person, who's influenced you the most in your business? And they'll put a name and I'll say, well, why did you say that? What did they do? And pretty soon we've got a conversation going. It's being social. The last thing is look for mentions on your social media. A lot of people forget this, that part of reviews is also keeping up with what people say about it. Now I'm running a bit behind.
We have one other question.
Okay.
No, what is the best strategy to manage scalability? You always respond to all comments. How do you choose what to respond?
It depends on what you're going after and who it is. And, like in the case of the one I just mentioned, where I responded to somebody that I asked the question, who has influenced you the most in your business? And then I had several good comments, but one of them was particularly interesting. And so I went and responded to the others and I said, oh, he is a great person. But one person, I didn't know who it was. And that's the one I said, why did you say that about him? Who is this person? And it got a conversation going. It takes time. Understand that people will listen or will respect you if you come back and do it once a week or every couple days. You don't have to be right on and asking that question right after. In fact, some people find that it's kind of scary when you're doing that. So, but be sure to go in and answer all those things. Now, here's some things about loading speed of your website. This is important for SEO. Mobile is so important. Mobile is so important that back last year, Google was going to come out with a new thing that talked about how they weren't going to give your name out at all unless you were mobile friendly. Well, they backed down a little bit from it, but they still, if you have a mobile phone and you go to their site, they're probably not going to give you a website that is not set up to be mobile friendly. I'll show you some examples of that in a few minutes, but here's some statistics that scare the heck out of people. If you aren't up and your website is loading on a cell phone in 4.8 seconds or less, you're losing business. When you hit 9.5, you've lost 48% of your business, or those that would have come and were trying to get into your site. If you hit 19 seconds, you've lost 98% of all those visitors that would have or were looking for whatever you had. So it's important to have something that'll work faster. And I'll talk about that in a minute. Speed is really, really important. How many times have we looked at, we're watching on our phone and we're going, oh my gosh, this restaurant is driving me nuts. I can't even order on it. And you'll click off and you'll go somewhere else. Do you ever go back to there? A lot of people don't. So get a free speed test. Jim and I offer a free speed test that you can try. And it doesn't just simply sell us. What it does is it shows you the things you need to do and how you can do it if you want. And that's fine. In fact, that's what we're teaching all about today. We're not here to try to sell you on our services of doing SEO. We want you to be able to do it, and this free speed test will help you. Now, if you want an ongoing one, we have a program that does that as well. The next thing I have is web hosting. Some web hosting companies are slow themselves, and it's not your website's fault. It's the hosting company's site. And I won't mention any names here, so no, I'm not actually going to. So
GoDaddy.
Yeah, I won't say that one. I had a site that was on GoDaddy, and it took, no matter how fast the site was, it always took close to 20 seconds to load. We moved it over to another site, and suddenly I was at 3 seconds. That's a huge difference. And so you want to be paying attention to that. And if you need some ideas of that, get a hold of Jim or I, and we can help you with that. Now, I'm going to be talking a lot more about WordPress, because WordPress allows you to do a lot of these things yourself. A lot of the others, like Weebly or any of the others, you don't get to do the social media, or the SEO, because you're behind their site. You're a subsite of their site. And the problem is with that, if you do any SEO for you, it goes to them, and then they will send it on to you. There's one site, one of my customers was really getting frustrated with his SEO guy. And I started looking into it for him, and it wasn't the SEO guy, it was the site he was on. What was happening was, they were bringing in the things for, he was a jeweler, he was bringing traffic that was looking for his jewelry, but that site was taking it and handing it off to individually the 20 different jewelers they had on it. And they just simply pushed it that way, because he didn't pay a premium to have him send his traffic to his site. And it would have more than doubled. Now he's moved to a WordPress site, which has helped tremendously for getting his business there. Cache pages. This is one of the cool things that you can do now. You can have, there's companies that do cache pages, but you can also do it within your own site, where you can get a plugin that will cache your page in such a way that when somebody goes there, it flashes that out to them. So it moves much faster. And that's one of the things you got to look at. So if you're interested in that, let us know. There's some things we have that we can help you with. Another one is your page size. I had someone the other day, and I couldn't figure out why it was coming up so slow. And then I started looking at it.
Boyd, Melanie's asking, how do you access the free speed check? It's on the SEO in 360 website.
Yeah, so we have two of them. So we have one that's a more in-depth one, and then we have one that you use ongoing. And so the one that's ongoing, you can get, and you pay for it, and you run the test anytime you want. The one that is more in-depth, you just email to either Jim or I, and we'll get that for you, and it'll give you a report, okay? It's a great one to start with, and then you use the other one to make sure that everything's working fine, because one of the next ones is bad plugins. If you get a plugin that doesn't upgrade when WordPress updates, it can actually shut your site down or slow it way down because they're not taking advantage of things. The next thing I had on here was page size, but also images. Images is a huge thing. If you have an image that you shot it with your phone, it's a huge size. It's actually probably in the 4 or 5 megabyte size, but for your website, it only needs to be probably 150K. That's huge. Well, you need to be able to scale those down to the right size for what your website is wanting. And we have a program that helps with that. Bad plugins, I just mentioned that. I just had one a couple of weeks ago that shut down my whole website because it did an update. They didn't tell me. It just suddenly updated, and I got a message from one of my customers saying your website's down. And when I went in there, I just had to turn off all the plugins and then put them on one at a time till I found the one that had been updated just 2 days before, and then it went live that morning. You got to watch those. The last thing is external scripts. So if you're you're putting ads on your website, you got to make sure that those ads are coming in quickly. They're not taking a long time for them to go and search everything. And there's some services that are terrible. Some that are really good. If you're using Google or Amazon, they're really good. But if you're using some of the others, you may find that that's some of the things that are slowing it down. There's other things that go along with that, but I've got to get going. Oops, going the wrong way. All right, last thing on here. Let's see, I just did that one. This is just some of the things that are we've got that can help with these things. So we've got a page size checker. It just takes a look and sees how it works. We have an image optimizer. We have a page speed checker. This checks how fast your speed of your site is. That's a great one for an ongoing check. And then the Google Cache Check. This tool will allow you to see if Google is caching all of your site, or is it just caching just your main page. And it'll tell you how you can update and get that going. So that gives you some ideas of things. And that's all from SEO in 360. This is one of the things that is really important. I mentioned this earlier. Mobile, you have to be mobile friendly. Is your website mobile responsive? With 3.7 million mobile phones out there, that's not million, it's supposed to be billion, sorry. I have a typo there. 89% of all searches are now done on mobile phones. If you're not mobile ready, you're not mobile responsive, you're going to be shut off from Google giving out your information. I mentioned this once before. On the right of your screen, you'll see a site that is not mobile ready. You have to scroll over in order to see more of that site, because that's only about probably 2/3 of it, and then it goes over. And that's too bad, because what really it should be is more like this one, where it just brings it up, and when you're on a big computer, on a big screen, it's different than when it's on a mobile phone. That means it's responsive, and that's important, okay? One last thing is make sure your plugins for your website are also responsive. Occasionally, I've run into a plugin that isn't responsive to mobile, and so it sometimes does like what this SageBin one does. This actually is a plugin, I believe, that is not working right, and so it does the wrong thing. But behind it, you can see that everything else is now to mobile size, but that one page is not. And I put this one in specifically to show you that. Okay. Last thing is just simply showing you SEO in 360. With this particular thing, we do have a screen resolution simulator. So you can see what it's going to look like on tablets, no matter what size the tablet is, on phones, any type of phone. And you can say, okay, this is a 1080 wide by 2160 tall, or whatever size you want to look at. You can actually simulate the screen and make sure your computer or your website is responsive. The other one is a book here that I would recommend. It has a lot of information. It's the SEO Blueprint. It's a really good book. It's like $9 to get, but it has a whole lot of different chapters on things you can do in it. And when you're talking about these type of things that we've just talked about, the 5 of them, this book is really good for that. So I'd recommend that. Jim, it's your turn.
Okay, thanks, Boyd. I am going to start sharing my screen.
Good.
Yes.
Go, boy.
I got it.
There you go.
Okay. Oops. I got to move it clear back up here. Okay, there we go. All right, so the next topic is domain authority. And it's a term that kind of gets thrown around a little tiny bit, and I'm going to hopefully clarify it a little tiny bit. But domain authority was created by an organization called Moz. Moz is generally considered one of the best search engine optimization distribution networks, and they actually do SEO for people. But they're incredibly expensive. You should hire somebody like E2 that's much more affordable, as I should say. Boyd didn't even smile when I said that. So they give you a score from 1 to 100. And obviously, the majority of the sites are going to be 55 down to maybe 35. When you start getting sites that rank at 75 or 85, they're harder to get to and harder to create domain authority. There's different ways you can boost your authority. I want to emphasize that Google says sometimes things, and they don't always tell us the truth. And that was true with link building for a long time. That was true with a lot of things that they say. And so they sometimes say, well, we don't care about domain authority. In fact, when we run tests against domain authority, we prove them wrong. And then, a few months later, there used to be a guy named Matt Cutts. He would come out and give us little snippets of information like, oh yeah, links really do matter. Oh yeah, reviews really do matter. Oh yeah, domain authority really does matter. And so they don't always tell us how their algorithm works. It's up to guys like Boyd and I and some colleagues and I that we're always testing them. We're always staying up at night thinking of ways, how can I measure domain authority and see if that impacts the ranking? And that's what we ultimately are talking about, of course, is ranking. So domain authority is, you can see that it was created by Moz, but there's several different organizations that use it. These companies that I'm pointing to, I'm gonna go back one. They use domain authority in a couple of different methodologies. One of them refers to it as trust flow. That website that has a 99 trust flow happens to be Google. The referring domains are where things really start to matter. So a referring domain, this also, most of all the slides that I put in this deck are Google slides. So the trust and flow measurement there of link quality is 99. The referring domains was 17 million. So if you look at this, you can see that the referring domains have a great deal of authority, and that's what, of course, helps Google rank on Google. So imagine that. So the Google rank analysis gives you a couple of things. It gives you trust flow and citation flow. And to have domain authority makes you relevant, makes you important. In the chart on the lower left-hand side, that is kind of the domain authority and flow that we're looking at when we start to rank a site. And this particular graphic comes from a company called RankMe. And it showed, the slide is showing how they actually go back at multiple levels and check the domain authority from a referring domain. So to get the primary drive in, the trust and flow citation to the target URL, not only go back to the first domain, but then they check and see domains that refer to them, the 3 domains that they were referring to them. So Google has become more complex and more complex almost every day. And to imagine that they're going back 2 and 3 generations or 2 and 3 levels deep to check the domain authority is just another measurement of how deep Google wants to go and actually see that you have relevant content, you have relevant information. So domain authority and page authority are absolutely important measurements. So don't discount that. That's something that you want to work on and grow your domain authority. And you do that by having quality content. You do that by having quality links. You do that by having quality page speed. You're starting to see that all of these things are circular in nature. What we're talking about is how to create good SEO. We're on 6 out of 10 topics, and almost every one of them drive back to quality content, quality links, quality speed, quality hosting providers. all of these things really play into what it is that we want to achieve, and that's quality SEO, or a quality ranking, a high ranking. And high ranking, I mentioned it a moment ago, but high ranking equates to more traffic. More traffic equates to more money. The reason we're all in business is we want to acquire more money, more followers, more, all of those things, and you do that by ranking higher on Google. I think I've mentioned to this before in many of my presentations, that Google controls 98% of all the searches done in the world every single day. That means all of the competitors, Bing and Yahoo and Alta Vista, they still are around, I think, and MSN. I mean, all of those people fighting for 7% of the market. Google controls 98%, 93% of the market. So, if we satisfy Google, everybody else just absolutely falls in line. I've got a couple of tools that I use when checking rank tracking. It's called Rank Tracker, of course, and but it checks multiple other search engines. It's humorous to me because I check Google and I just watch all the other ones fall in line with Google. So if we're satisfying Google's needs, all the others are pleased as well. So main authority, there's a couple of different products that we have that can help with that. And Moz Rank Tracker, I mentioned Moz a moment ago. That will help you determine on how you're going to rank with Moz, how your domain authority is with Moz. Google Index Checker is another wonderful tool. Alexa Rank Checker has a great deal to do with domain authority. And online ping web testing tool, that just lets you ping your site and see how it ranks. So those are all great tools. They're all part of the suite of products that are available in the SEO and 360 website. And of course, we're always talking about domain authority, so I stuck that little snippet in there for you. So I had the pleasure today to talk about two of what I think are the most important topics. And that wasn't by nature. I wasn't Boyd any stretch. But certainly link building is at the core of what I do. And keywords just happen to be one of the other topics that fell in my lap. The keywords are fascinating to me. You can see that this is the keyword, or this is the search criteria that I put in to this particular search. This is a Google screen you can see. So I put in SEO in 360, and of course, Boyd spoke about the Google My Business page. Here is our Google My Business page, and I didn't go very far down on it. But you can see maybe some reviews down there. You can get links to our website. You can get directions. This particular ad popped up. I can't control the ads, but I did a search for SEO in 360. This is what came up. Google, the search engine results page, or the SERP page, put this ad in there for me. It's a competitor, of course. It's a paid advertisement. You can see that right there. They're paying money. So while I was putting this presentation together, I clicked on them several times to just kind of help burn up the budget. They're spending on
You're so kind for them.
I know, I'm helping. So you can see that SEO in 360 came up. Here, there's a lot more information about us. You can leave us a review. We can add photography. We can create more posts. There's all kinds of great information that happens there. This is how we get to all of the websites we want to find. We become much better at searching than we once were. When I started teaching information about the internet close to 20 years ago, I hate to say that, but close to 20 years ago, I was really centric on keywords, and keywords were valuable to me. I understood real early on that in the process, that words were magical on internet searches. Words had value. Words were important. And the way you stated something was very important. Back when I first taught my first class about keywords, we used one-word search criteria. Today, the average search is between 4 and 5 words. We're asking questions now of Google. We're asking questions when we do searches. We're asking questions on our phones. We're asking, Boyd said over 80% of the searches are done on phones. Well, not only do you type into your phone, where is the closest Mexican restaurant, you can say, you can do that with a voice command. But those are all bigger questions. The questions have got longer, and Google has to understand all of those things so that it can answer those questions appropriately. And so it's fascinating to me. But here's some tips and tricks. So that was kind of the point of the whole presentation today, to give you guys some things that you could control yourself or manage yourselves. And the title tags.
Question for you. Did you put enough words on that page?
Yes, I did. This is the one page I mentioned. I just absolutely vomited words. You could take everything out of this page. Just pay attention to these ones that are bolded. I put it there for your information, but it's really not that exciting. You should know that how you treat your keywords, are important. So you should have, if I'm picking a blog and I want to rank that blog, I should have the keyword for that blog in my title tag. You should also have the keyword for that blog in that meta description. If any of you guys want to go to one of my blogs right now and scroll down a couple of blogs to the one that I mentioned earlier, which was Social Signals is the one that I'm thinking of. You'll see that my blog actually has social signals in the title of the article. So it's in the title tag. Then it's in the first couple of words, it says social signals are important. And then throughout that article, I incorporated it in my H1 tags, in my H2 tags, in my H3 tags. It's been written throughout the article. It has a certain amount of density. So that keyword is prevalent. So I have, it's in my meta description. So it's in my title tag. It's in my meta description. I have an image alt tag that's named social signals on that particular blog. It's in my anchor text. So I use it several times throughout the article in my anchor text. I use, it's called latent semantic indexing. I use it as in the article itself, and there's value in how that works. It's more complex than we can talk about in an hour or hour and a half, but those words have value, and they change in value depending on whether you put a period after it or whether you begin a sentence with it. All of these things matter to Google. Avoid keyword stuffing is absolutely important. So I've been talking about keywords on a blog, and words are important. Did you know that if you don't have at least 300 words on a blog, Google deems it unworthy to actually even index that page? So you must have over 300 words. Best performing blogs happen to have about 1,800 words. And if you go over a 3% density, Google thinks that you're spamming them or keyword stuffing. And if you're keyword stuffing, they're going to punish you. There's only a reward or punishment in the Google world. So either you're going to get rewarded or you're going to get punished. So if you have more than 3% density of that keyword, they will in fact punish you. So I typically write mine. If you look at most of mine, I can guarantee that they have between 2.5 and 2.8% density. I never go over 2.8. I recommend most of my clients that they actually, when they're writing their own blogs, and we're not doing it for them, will write to about, should write to about a 2% density, just because it can get out of control if they do that. Include them in your H2 and H3 tags, so in your subheadings. In a typical blog, at least one of those H2 tags and one of those H3 tags should include your keyword. And then you can use additional keywords. So those additional keywords are support keywords. For example, if you're writing about barbecue, and that's your keyword, and you put words in like ketchup and mustard and relish, those actually go to support your actual premise or your actual blog article. So keywords are important, and that's how we find what we're looking for on the internet. Here's some more products that we have, and I got carried away with this one. This one has a list of both books and applications as well as services. SEO keyword service is something that I want to point to. We haven't spoken about that heretofore. We can do the SEO audit and the SEO keyword service for you. Meta tags, meta descriptions, keyword position checker, keyword density checker, tips for blogging. All of those things are products that are very available on SEO in 360. The one that I want to point to you guys to is in the upper left-hand corner. It's a $27 ultimate SEO checklist. There's a book that you can buy today for free. All you need to do is go into it and give us your information, and we will send that you for free. So don't tell me I didn't give you anything for free.
Actually, it's not a real book. It's
a PDF.
It's a great big long infographic that you can put on your wall, and you can follow it step by step by step by step. I don't know why I've got that graphic in there, other than this graphic would never fit.
Okay, so that's some more information, things that you can do yourself. It is, like Boyd says, I've seen it. It's a great big long list of things to do. But it's that. Hey, Boyd's up. Oh, wait, where am I at? Website structure is me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're doing one more. Go ahead.
I got one more. Okay, so understanding website structure. I got carried away here. Your website structure. All we're trying to accomplish with this, we want Google to understand the purpose of your website. So that's done by creating a couple of sitemaps and some other things. The user experience of the visitor is what's Google, I mentioned to you guys, Google talks about satisfying that need. So they need to be able to do things. They need to understand, Google needs to understand what your website's for. It needs to have some usability, or it needs to be important for use. It needs to be important to the end user. Your website structure is important to your SEO. I'm going to jump over here a little bit. And I'm just going to tell you guys that Google has said outright, we will not index your page. We will not index your website. That means they will not even take your website and put it in that pile of websites unless it has an SSL, a security socket layer is what it's referred to as. You do not have that HTTPS with that S designation, Google's not even going to read your site. That doesn't mean that they can't find it, or that if you type in your URL directly, can't get to it. But if somebody's just doing an organic search for you, it will not be found in that organic search. So when you start to think about website structure in particular, do you have a home page? Is it designated as your home page? What does your navigation look like? Is it easily legible? You know, you were trying to satisfy this user experience over here. They navigate your website. And I'm going to go off topic just a little tiny bit. Maybe refer back to the words having importance. Not only do they understand, you know, what you're navigating for? Is it easily legible? Is there additional information at the top of your page? I hate websites that I go to and they don't have a phone number. I hate websites that I go to and it's not easily legible on how to contact them. So websites that have that information at the top of the page instead of buried on a contact page or buried at the bottom of the first page, those sites rank better because Google likes them better. Google rewards you for having that user experience accessible at the top of that page. Breadcrumbs are a trail that basically run through your website, and you can link from one page to another. So for example, if you've got this really cool article, blog about social signals, you want to maybe have a link at the bottom where they can navigate back to the home page. It's a breadcrumb. It's taking them from an article that they consumed back to the homepage so they can find more information. You might also take them back to the top of the page where all of your blogs are. So where you leave those breadcrumbs or how you create that trail through your site is important. Taxonomies is just categories. Is it broken into logical categories? You make the best use of tags. And how does your navigate? This is kind of a navigation thing. How do you navigate that? Is it via sidebars or whatever? I want to show you guys this graphic pretty quickly. It's self-explanatory. This is a site that has no structure, no map, and it's really painful to navigate. It's painful to try and figure out where you are. There's a couple of different things that you can do. You can create a sitemap in WordPress, and this is called a circular sitemap, where everything drives into the home page. This is a more of a hierarchy where each of these categories are in a different color. You can see that they're very well organized and that they're very structured. If you have an appropriate sitemap, Google's going to be able to find your homepage. They always can find your homepage, and then access that HTML access file or sitemap file. And then Google can find all of your other content, index all of your other content from that one sitemap. If Google can find the homepage and index the homepage, it also indexes the sitemap, and then every page on your site, they may not be ranked right away or quickly. At least Google will know that they exist, and they know they have to come back and rank them. So to help with that, of course, we have our XML sitemap generator. We have a Google caching tool. We have a redirect tool. We have an image optimizer, which would have to do with the structure of the image, an SSL checker, an index checker, and I don't know why I put the spinner and rewriter in there. But I've left another quote for you today. And this is that SEO is not about tricking Google. It's in fact partnering with Google to help you get the best results for the end user. Google always cares about the end user and thinks of it from the perspective of the end user. You know, I used to think it was cool that I could kind of manipulate them when I first started doing webmaster stuff and said, hey, you know, I'm going to pile a bunch of links on here and we're going to win the battle. It didn't matter if they were inappropriate links. What Google wants to see is that you're appropriate. Make sure they're from appropriate sites and they have appropriate and relevant information, and you're going to rank, you're going to have much more domain authority. Everything is going to work better. So that is the end of that slide. And now it's Boyd's turn. You're on, Boyd. You're muted, Boyd.
I forgot to unmute me.
I just unmuted you. Okay.
Thank you. Oh, okay. So thank you very much. So I'm going to talk about web security for a minute. You know, there's a lot of things you have to understand about I got to move all of my pictures suddenly decided to jump right in the middle of my screen. And
where do you go to get the free book? That's on the books. On our the SEO in 360.
It's because it's free. PayPal doesn't know how to handle free. So send me your email address and I'll email that to you later today. So please go ahead and send that to me. That's the.
Oh, I got it. Okay.
So that's that infographic one.
Okay. Yeah, there was a whole bunch of communications in the chat there on that.
Yeah. So somebody was. Joel had a question for you first before I turn it over to you. He says, related to web structure and design, how innovative can a business be when building a site so that they are different from their competitor?
That's a great question. Graphically, they can be as assertive as they want to be. But what I want to see is that they do have that sitemap file. As long as they have an XML sitemap is attached to their homepage, they can actually not have pages that link one to the other, like in that real structured graphic that I gave you. But from the homepage, you can access every one of the pages on that site. Google will be able to find them and index them. So there's pages that I actually create that are called no-follow pages. And so think about this. Most of my Contact Us forms are designated as a no-follow page. I tell the search engines right up front, even though it's in my sitemap, I don't want you to index this page. I don't want you to follow the link to this page. The reason for that is because how many times do you think Google has indexed Contact Us page? A billion times, right? They will thank me. They'll actually reward the site for not having them follow and index the Contact Us page. But by having pages that are designated as not follow or do not index this page, actually rank the site actually higher. So put the sitemap in place, but designate some pages as no follow pages. Hopefully that answers your question, Joel.
Yeah, I think it does. So, all right, we're going to go into website security, and there's a lot of different things. I put some the first 5 things up. So there are some things, and we've touched upon some of those things, such as invest in a WordPress security plugin like Security. That was one that was recommended to us. I don't have an actual plugin that we have because you want something that's secure and being updated all the time. And Security is one that is done. There are several others that I'm sure Jim could tell us about too. But
Word Fence is the one that I like the most. They're the
what was
most
it?
respected. Word Fence.
A word fence. Oh yes, I've heard of that one. Puts up a fence around your website so it can't be accessed. So that's good. Jim mentioned also about getting an SSL certificate for your website. This is very important because, well, if you don't have that, you're not going to be ranked. So here's how you can tell if a site has that SSL. It will say HTTPS. If it doesn't, it's not secure. There are some sites that will not allow you to go into a non-secure website. Now, I'm going to tell you a story about that. I have my website, BP Media. For a long time, I didn't have the SSL, and I put it on there, but it kept conflicting, and I couldn't figure out why. Apparently, I had two SSLs attached to it, and they were conflicting with one another. So that was one of the big problems. But I turned it off, and then I found that I wasn't still getting the S on it all the time, just on certain pages. If you have built a site and you put the SSL on it, you need to go back and check your all your photos to make sure. Oops, sorry, I've got a mower deciding to mow his lawn next door. So you want to go through and check your pictures to make sure that they are now from the secure site and not from a non-secure site. Most of the time, it's just simply putting an S at the end of HTTP in the code. Of course, most people don't know how to read the code, and so there's ways of doing it. If you want more information, get a hold of Jim or I, and I can tell you how to do that. But here's some other things. Select the right web hosting service. I mentioned this once before in another area. It is so important to have that because not only are they faster, there is a big difference between one that is secure and one that is not. And so you need.
Boyd, there's a question about Cloudflare. Do you have any experience with that?
With what?
Cloudflare.
Oh, Cloudflare. Actually, that's the one I use right now. You can get a free account or you can get a little more secure one, although I've never figured out what they were going to do above it because secure is secure. I think they give you some other analytics that go along with it. But Cloudflare is really good. So yes, I do know about them. Find the right web hosting company. Make sure that they offer an SSL. When I was with what's the hosting company that we all love to hate?
Host.
Yeah.
GoDaddy.
What?
GoDaddy.
GoDaddy. That's who I was originally. And so when I moved over to the hosting company I have now, I had put Cloudflare on there and it moved with me and it was really nice. But every time I turned around, I was being charged for something else at the old place. And so and they wanted $5 a month to have an SSL. Well, I got it from Cloudflare for free. And then now on my new one, if I had wanted, I could use theirs. And they have one for free as well. So check with your web hosting company and check reviews that other people are talking about it to see how secure they are. One of the other things, back up your WordPress site. I recommend doing this. Every once in a while, you'll see that WordPress wants to update your WordPress program. Before you update it, always do a backup. And then if it has been a couple of months, do a backup anyway. And backups are easy. There's a couple of programs out there. In fact, there's a couple of plugins you can get from WordPress that will allow you to back it up to a specialty site. And it's all free, so do that. Also, do regularly update your WordPress and plugins. I was on a customer's site a few days ago, and he still had a WordPress program that was probably 2.5 years old. He hadn't updated it. a lot of the problems he was having was because he hadn't updated that WordPress. And he kept telling me, well, I haven't backed up my system. Well, why didn't you do that? So I taught him how to do that, and then he did. He finally updated it, and it took care of all the problems because some of his plugins were now being updated, but they weren't backward compatible back that far. So you've got to pay attention to that and do the right thing. Okay, so on website security, to continue on, we have, you got to create strong passwords. Now, besides strong passwords, you've got to also do a couple of other things, and I use a program that hides what the login is. Most people, they go to their websites.com/admin, and that's where everybody can go and log in if they know how.
Well, there's just a comment here by Christie, and he just says that go ahead and set your WordPress sites to update automatically.
That's good and bad. So if you automatically set it to update, if there was something that doesn't work with one of your plugins, it could shut your site down because of the plugin, but it was because of the update from WordPress. I always recommend going in at least once every other week to make sure that nothing needs to be updated, and that way it doesn't do an automatic that then can cause problems and you're locked out of your site. Does that make sense, guys? Hope so. Okay, strong passwords again. One of the things, I do believe in strong passwords, but gosh, you know, how many passwords can you use? It is so frustrating because I have passwords for a lot of different things. Well, one of the things I've found is, like I started saying, was, you know, if you go to bpmedia.com/admin, that's where most people, a WordPress starts with that. Well, if you can change that, it's great. But you can't just change it because it's all built into the WordPress site. I have a program that will change it to something different. I was getting, before I changed it, I had somebody in Russia that was trying to hack into my site. Now, I had it set up so that if they tried 3 times, it would shut them off for 24 hours. Well, that was great, except for they try it from one site, and then they come in from a different IP address and a different IP address, and they were all identified in Russia in this one little town. Well, I changed that login area, and I've never had anyone try to get into it. So that's one thing you can try, and that way you're getting rid of all those people who are going to attempt to find your login. Okay, and I'll give it to you for free if you would like that. And the program also gives you the ability to limit how many times they can try it, and you can have it so it shuts it off completely. I don't recommend that, because if you forget it and you do it, let's say you set it up for 3 times, it can shut you off and then you can't get in again. So you want to be careful with that. Okay. Set up 2-factor authentication. So this means that you type in your address and then it'll send something to your phone. Now, you got to be careful with this one too. If you change phones, you got to be careful that everything hooks up the same. I had a customer who, his new phone, even though it had the same phone number, it did not recognize it from the computer that was sending it, because it says, oops, this is not the iPhone that he had. And so you got to be careful with 2-factor authentication. Make sure when you set it up to test it before you leave. Otherwise, you may have problems getting back in. And then you have to go through WordPress to have them help you. Limit login attempts. I mentioned this a minute ago. Do that. It's one of the best ways to stop hackers from getting in, unless they're persistent like that one guy. In fact, what I think he was doing, he had a bot that was doing it, because every day about the same time he would try, and after 3 tries he was out. So just be careful with that and limit the login attempts. Limit the user permissions. this is something that I have run into every once in a while. My son has a website, and people were getting in and changing things all the time, or they were posting things. And as we got in there, we found that somebody had changed the user permissions, and he thinks it was his secretary who used to work for him that changed it so that instead of her having to authorize every single response, that she just set it so it would automatically let them through. Well, he was getting hundreds and hundreds of people going in and trying to sell their product online on his website. And so you've got to be able to know what the limits are and set the limits on the permissions for those customers. And then one thing that we have found, a lot of people, if they don't log out idle users, people who never go to your site, it's okay to do that, because if they come back in, they can just simply reignite and re-sign up. But one of the things that has been a big problem with the dark web is that they'll finally get an old account that they find the passwords for, and they'll come in the back door. So you got to be careful with that. As I said, you can get my login and admit attempts program. What it is it's a program I run, but it allows me to change it for you. And then once it's done, it's done, and you don't have to worry about it. So it's up to you if you'd like to. If you'd like to email me and just ask for that login and limit attempts program, then I'll contact you and get it all set up. Okay, oops, went the wrong way again. I'm really good at that. Okay, this is my graphic for setup two-factor authentication. Forgot to do that. The last section I want to talk about is user experience. Jim has alluded to this and has talks about it, and he always talks about how Google is so interested in making sure that Google is taking care of the customer more than anything. Well, this is all about the user experience. And this is a big ranking factor. And so you don't want to miss this. How much of your user experience is part of the website is really going to contribute the most to how well you do on Google. So here's the three things. There's three big things. There's lots of little things. These are the three big ones. What is your click-through rate? That's the percentage of users that click on your website link in the search results. Okay, and then the more you get, the higher you get, with one exception. Okay, and that's if they bounce right back out. If they bounce right back out, then you've got a problem. You've got to be able to be sticky, as they call it, and that is where people want to stop and see, and they want to go to something else. I'm going to show you some examples of some websites, and you can decide for yourself whether it has a good click-through rate or it bounces people back out. The third thing is the dwell time. This measures how long a visitor is on your site, and they're coming from Google. It's not coming from someone else. It's coming from a Google search, and because they want people to find what exactly they're looking for. And the longer they stay on that, your site, the better it is, because they felt like, ooh, we did give them the exact right content they were looking for. Now, one of the things I want to show you is a couple of websites here. One of the things is when you go to a website like this, what do you think of? Are you really going to go to it and stay there? I mean, you go there and it's locations. It doesn't have a call to action. It doesn't have a lot of other things on it. So it's important that you do more than just that. So here's one of a local business. And while you got lots more options than just finding a location, you can actually get you can set up and service, You can set up, you know, a lot of different things. You can find out about them. And you've got a picture of the people you know that you're going to be seeing all the time. Here's another one. Oops, wrong way again. Here's one. I don't know whose website this is. Jim, do you recognize it?
Rocks. Whoever it is, rocks.
Okay, okay. So this, while it has a lot of things along the top that helps you, get into things, and you'll notice SEO on site, SEO services, link building, SEO marketing services, and then Jim's blog. So, and this gives you right up front, here's a phone number to get to him. This search engine optimization is a moving sign. Now, this is just a static image of that moving sign, but it makes you want to find, if you're looking for SEO, you know you've gotten to the right place. Here it is, 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 and here it is.
That site probably ranks for SEO services in Salt Lake City.
I'll bet it does. Yeah, ranks really high. Okay, and let's try this one more time. This is one of my sites. This is my social media site, and while it doesn't have quite the menu like he has, it does grab people's attention because they can see the graphic behind it, and they recognize that, and they want to learn more. So, well, okay, that's the last slide, I guess. So I'll turn this back over to you to close us up.
Okay. I am going to have a couple more slides.
Okay.
Hey, real quick. I'm sharing my screen now.
Well, I'm seeing website security Boyd.
Yeah.
From you.
Let's try this. Share.
So I'm seeing your page.
Yeah, it's not moving forward. There we go.
Oh, there it goes. That's actually going, there you go.
There we go. It's taken. Okay, this is the slide I wanted everybody to see. So we're about out of time. I'm surprised that we wrapped it up in an hour and a half. But use this slide in some other presentations. And when I talk about SEO, it's literally circles within circles. And Boyd was talking about click-through rate. Well, how do you get a positive click-through rate? Does that have to do with the content of your meta description? You write a compelling meta description. He talked about a bounce rate. It's a measurement that Google uses to control the end user experience. Well, how do you get a good bounce, or I should say a small bounce rate? We don't want very many people to bounce. Well, you do that with quality content. You do that with catching images. You do that with graphics. What about the dwell that Boyd mentioned? All of that goes back to user content. You do that with quality information. The content on the page that they landed on have to do with their keyword search. So you can see that the keywords and the graphics and the meta description and everything is pulled all back together to actually be circles within circles. There's not an easy thing to do, but I can tell you it's not one thing, it's all of these things that work together. I heard not a competitor, but a colleague actually speaking the other day. And basically he said, it's not easy. And my answer to you is, if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. What you do need to do is you need a plan. Create a plan, follow through with that plan. If it doesn't work, readjust and continue with you don't go to plan B, you go to back to plan A. You start plan A all over again. So you measure, adjust, you remeasure, adjust again, and then go back to the beginning of plan A and start all over again. It's continual work. Google changes the algorithm all the time. It's been argued that Google changes the algorithm, the SEO algorithm, as often as 5 times a day, 5 to 7 times a day, actually. So if they're tweaking their algorithm that often, and that's their job, is to tweak that algorithm so that the internet always stays fresh. That's Google's job, is to make sure that every time you do a search for something, that you get new information. Be prepared to have Google tweak with you or mess with you, and then you just measure and then adjust and then do it again. So thank you so much for spending an hour and a half with us on a lazy Thursday afternoon. But we've enjoyed sharing with you, and we're going to open it up to some questions, and I'm going to stop my share there. So we'll be around for a couple of minutes. Do you guys want to throw something at us, and we'll do our best to answer it?
Carlos said that WordFence is used for free, so you can get a free version of that.
It does have a free version and a paid version.
Yeah, I think that the security scrutiny, the other one that I had on there, that one has a free version as well, and then you can get a higher version as well on that. Okay.
Boyd mentioned being able to change the admin. So instead of being e2.com/wp-admin, which is what most WordPress sites are, you can change that. And so if you do change that, as important as just changing that, having a complex password is really, really important.
Yes.
They kind of blew over that,
Yeah.
and don't make it 1, 2, 3, or don't make it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or don't make it JHK, JKL, because those are all words that you actually type from the home row of your keyboard. So make sure that it's something complex. I like to use words that are compound words. For example, monkeys climb in trees. Something that you can remember, but you could always put a $sign at the end of trees, for example. So monkeys climb in trees is easy to remember. You guys can all try that on all my sites, but it won't work. That's a word that you could use. Blue sky, snowy day. Use words like that are compound that you can remember. Very few people can remember the really complex capital, lowercase, up and down. Maybe Joel does. I've got a couple of programmers that they remember words like that, and I have no idea how they do. But use a complex, long password.
Okay, I don't see any other questions, so thank you guys. I hope well, it looks like they liked it. So
yeah, at least we had one person from South America join us.
Did we?
Joel's in South America today.
Oh, is he? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's on lockdown.
Okay.
Quarantine.
Oh, of course, he is. Yeah. So we also have one person from, well, he's gone now, but we had one person that was from India on here as well. So, well, thank you, everyone. And I hope you have a wonderful weekend when it finally gets here. And especially where it's a holiday weekend.
Everyone be safe.
Yes, be safe.